So speaking of millions being wrong, some of your writings have brought you criticism from Christians because you said that Christians don't have a clue what Christ was talking about. Exactly what did you mean by that?
There was some point before the last 3 years in the life of Christ where he was exposed to these teachings. We know that because you mentioned earlier a question about the summative statement, I am that I am. If you read what Christ supposedly said, if indeed he said that, you will hear him say, when you speak of me as I am. That's not from the Torah. That's not from the Jewish teachings that he shared early on. That's pointing directly to the Advaita summative statement. He said, before Abraham was, I am. Again, the Advaita pointer. I am that I am. He said, heaven and earth shall fade away. Why? Because it's here. When the consciousness fades away, the perception of it will fade away. He said, no one shall ever see heaven, for it's within. You're either in that state or not. The Pope before this one said, Christ spoke of Gehenna, he didn't speak of hell. If you talk of the states of heaven and hell, he said, they're just two mental states. You're in one or the other now. So if you go back and look at the things he had to say at the end of his career, those are all Advaita pointers.
Okay.
Most people don't understand that.
Let's change the topic again here. Explain the term child ignorance in regards to these teachings.
If I were to truly be free of the mind, if I were to cast aside all ideas, all concepts, all beliefs, then I would be very much in that state that the child was in before programming and acculturation and domestication and conditioning. So when we use the term child ignorance, we're pointing to that state that wasn't really about ignorance, but it was about being free. It's like the blank tablet. The child is there, but it hasn't had all of these relative concepts taught to it that creates this mind that's full of concepts, ideas, beliefs that have no truth in foundation. And so we can call that the child ignorance stage, or the pre-programming, preconditioning stage. You give the child food, make sure the child's dry, it's got shelter, then the child's perfectly happy. Why? Because he has no concepts to judge. He has no beliefs about being separate, better than, worse than. All of those things come after that state of child ignorance. And ultimately, if I'm moving along the path, I'm simply going back the same way I came in, and I'm going to be at that stage if I'm free of the mind. It's a perfectly peaceful state. The child is in perfectly peaceful existence if it's fed and dry. Mm-hmm. And that's what life is like if we can be free of the mind and all the concepts that create the misery and suffering that follow when we accept those as true, when they're not.
So the difference in child ignorance and learned ignorance is what?
Well, the child ignorance is that state that's prior to the programming, etc. Everything else beyond that is the child is taught to believe the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, the moral, the immoral. That becomes the learned ignorance. So this ignorance that's learned as the child is being taught by all these elements in its culture, or what's separated from the peace and harmony that it was in prior to being taught on those concepts. The idea is to give up the learned ignorance that we've been taught and to reach that state of child ignorance on the path as we start moving to realization. It's just the step that comes after I give up belief even in the good personas, when I give up the belief in the religious Floyd, the spiritual giant, and I've reached that point where there's no belief in any persona anymore.
Well, you write about 2 levels of witnessing. Can you explain those a little bit?
Yeah, as we're moving along, consider the child again. That child, when its visions manifest and starts clearing up, it can see things. I see that. I see this. I'm looking at that. It's subject-object. So that's the first level we go through on the path to realization. I start getting free of a lot of these these other beliefs, I'm just witnessing, but I'm still witnessing on a subject-object level. I see you, subject-object. When we reach the next level, it's pure witnessing. And the shift is from I see you to I am you. We're one. We're at one. There's only the unicity. So it's just the next level. At that point, the consciousness is witnessing purely. And you can call that the true self at that point. When the consciousness has all those blockages removed that I mentioned earlier, and it's witnessing purely. The pure self, the true self, the real self. It's seeing that which is the way it really is, as opposed to subject-object witnessing. So it's just the next level.
Okay, what is the teaching about has and fears?
Okay, if we look back at the personality, we talked earlier about personas. Every persona has a desire, and every persona has a fear. The achiever has the desire to achieve, the fear of failure. The helper has a desire to help in order to get love. The fear is I won't be loved. The perfectionist has the desire to be perfect. The fear is I won't be. And so no matter what personality is assumed, it always brings along the duality of fear and desire. All misery is going to be rooted in one of the two, sometimes both. Okay.
What is the difference in consciousness and awareness?
Awareness is that pool of energy that exists without any physical nervous system there available for the consciousness to manifest, for example, in a body, and actually be conscious of something. It's the root from which the consciousness comes. In that pre-manifestation state, before the consciousness manifests, there is awareness, but there is no awareness of. It's the potentiality. The awareness has the potential, if it manifests, to become conscious of. The awareness is simply awareness without awareness of.
Okay, you say that love among the masses is magnificent and horrendous, and that most don't have a clue about what real love is. Can you explain that?
Yeah, in the book I wrote on that subject matter, it begins with 30 or 40 pointers about what love is not. We have to get those out of the way. Mm-hmm. We also have to realize, if I don't know that I'm at one with you, and if I don't know that I'm at one with all, then there can be no real love. That's the real truth, is that oneness. And therefore there can be no love if I don't understand the unicity. See, how many, when they speak of love, are really talking about love at that level? Where if I say I love you, I am really at one with you. Maharaj says he lives between wisdom and love. Wisdom is knowing he's nothing. Love is knowing he's everything. And love is knowing, to say I know I'm everything, is simply to say I know I'm at one. And so you've got the relative ideas about love and what that is, which is all subject-object. And then you've got pure love, which is witnessed by the pure consciousness, which knows I am at one with you, with all. And that's the difference in the two kinds. One's real, one's not.